Jake, it's wonderful
Yeah,
to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
sounds good. I appreciate it.
You bet. So, before we get into it, I want to ask you this. It's always my first question, but 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives. How did you get through it? How has it changed the way that you do things now?
Man, you're right. The pandemic was crazy.
Yeah.
It upended a lot of our lives. And for me, I was working full time as a structural engineer, and that didn't change for a few years. But in that moment in 2020 and 2021, I think a lot of us started to look internally a little bit more of like, what am I doing here? Like, what is life for me? What does success look like? And so there was these inklings of what do I want my future to look like? I guess at the time, my oldest kid would have been 6. He's 11 now.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of looking to the future of like, do I want more time with my kids? What does work look like? And eventually that led to me creating this company that I call Actively Human.
So, let's get into Actively Human and what you do on
Sure.
a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids. Let's say they're 12 years old. It's career day. One of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer him?
Yeah, I love it when you dumb it down. Not dumb it down, but teach it to a young kid, an elementary school kid,
Yeah.
even. My kids, they're ages 2 to 11, and it's funny because when I would tell them I'm a structural engineer, they're like, "Oh, you build buildings," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not out there swinging a hammer and doing any of the work. I design it, and I think as they get older, they understand that. But with my work at Actively Human, for the last 2 years, I've done worked one-on-one with people in a coaching environment to help them get excited about the work that they do and also come home each day excited. So win at home and win at work. And to explain that to a young kid, it's like, some people as they get older, they don't go to school anymore and they have a job and sometimes they end up not loving their job and that trickles into when they come home. And you might see, my kids, I would explain to them my own experience. Like that happened to me. I was an engineer for over a decade, 12 years or so. And when you're not excited about what you're doing at work, that same spirit, that same energy comes home when you come home. And so I think what we need to do better at, myself included, and all of us, is kind of a two-pronged approach, is be working on the meaning and the purpose behind what we do with our work professionally, but also win at home, like I said.
So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
I wanted to be a professional skateboarder. I thought those guys were like the coolest dudes, and I grew up in a very conservative Christian family, and at the time in the early '90s, those guys were potheads and doing things that my parents probably wouldn't approve of. But I would have loved to have been a professional skateboarder, which is it's still kind of ingrained in me. Like I still have a skateboard. I still go out and do it every once in a while. But definitely a different career path for sure as far as coaching and engineering.
Man, all of those dudes when I was in school were the coolest ones. There was one
I
guy,
know.
I still remember his name. His name was Cord Burke, and his mom built a half pipe in his backyard. And I just would go by and I was like, how much money? They must be billionaires to be able to afford that. But all of that, Tony Hawk was in the infant
Yeah.
stages. All of those dudes, like there was a Dogtown and Z Boys movie that came out, and all of those guys were in it, and they were the top echelon of the Maslowian cool mountain. They were the ones.
Yeah, for sure. The thing about skateboarding is there's a culture to it too. It's like, sure, there's the potheads and those kinds of things. I don't think it's that much anymore that way. But back then it was just they were so cool.
Yeah.
And they were just so chill about it. There's this surf, California vibe, which is where I grew up as well, about like nowhere to go and nothing to be.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm doing this right here, right now, and this is what I enjoy. And unfortunately, I think we lose that a little bit as we grow up.
Totally.
Yes, there's bills to pay and family to take care of, but I think we need to lean into the skateboarder vibe
Totally.
occasionally in our life with what we do.
I totally agree. So, who's been your hero? Who's been that inspirational force for you to be successful, to help others now, to be a coach? Who's been that for you?
I mean, there's been a lot of the typical ones. Like my father was a jeweler. He worked for himself for 40 years. Ironically, having a front row seat to entrepreneurship for 35 plus years of my life, I thought I am not doing that. Because I saw the struggles that he had. And again, this is the perception of a young kid growing up thinking that like money was tight and it was kind of miserable for my parents. But now looking back on it and having talked to my dad, I go, man, he loved what he did for 40 years. He controlled his own destiny. He had his highs and his lows and his ups and his downs, and sometimes money was tight, but he never would have worked for anybody else. So he's one of my biggest heroes. My father-in-law was a basketball coach, college basketball coach for Fresno State and BYU. And after marrying my wife, I've gotten to know him quite well. And he's a tremendous man, great leader, great inspiration for me. So those are probably the two that stand out. And then there's a lot of people that I look up to that are either dead or I've never met.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a few that kind of seem random, but Tom DeLonge from the band Blink-182, I actually met him one time, but he's a big hero of mine. He's a weird dude, but I love that he has a band, which is a business, and he's created this life that's so interesting. And then there's a lot of other authors as well that have been influential for me. Ryan Holiday is one that comes to mind. He's written a ton of books on Stoic philosophy, and so it's a little bit scattered. All these
Yeah.
heroes that I have, people that I look up to, but they all have something that I aspire to be.
So when did you realize that coaching was the right choice that you made? Did you have a client? Did you have a moment? Was there an epiphany?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I hired my own coach. I think this is pretty typical of most people that get into coaching. They hire their own coach because they're going through their own struggles. I hired two guys. It was a group coaching environment, Richie Norton and Mitch Whiting. And we did a group thing online, and then we did a live event in Salt Lake City. And sitting there, this is when I had kind of that breakthrough of like, maybe I am an entrepreneur. Maybe I can take what my dad did and do it my own way. Meaning, I saw what he did and I thought that's not for me. And there were some good things that he did that I liked, and there were some things that maybe I would do differently. And I realized I could do this a little bit differently. So right there in that moment, I thought I'm an entrepreneur because I hired these coaches and they helped me kind of work through what I wanted from life. And then I realized, well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to open an engineering firm. That's what I do full time. I'm a structural engineer, but I don't want to be in that industry. And so I called up a buddy and I said, hey, I think I'm going to start being a coach. And I knew he was going through some stuff and kind of some life transitions. We had worked together previously. And I said, would you be open to me calling you once a week and you tell me what you're going through and we just work through it and I'll be your coach? And it was a free thing. It was just like, let's test the water, see if it's beneficial for you, see if I could, if I enjoy it. And we did that for almost a year and it was phenomenal. Like I think I got more out of it than he did, but he also got a tremendous amount of value out of it. He ended up switching jobs, and which was a better fit for him. He's still an engineer, but at a different company. And so that was kind of my catalyst into coaching. I thought, man, if I could help people and really make an impact here, and I enjoy the one-on-one environment, kind of like we're talking today. I enjoy this as opposed to like a big group.
Yeah.
It was really purposeful and meaningful for me, and that again led to creating Actively Human.
When that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what motivates you? What gets you up? What makes you look forward to the day?
Stuff like this, actually. So this morning, ironically, you asked that. I thought, what's going on today when my alarm clock went off? And I go, oh, I'm talking to Joe. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So meeting new people, building connections with people, making an impact, like doing something that's meaningful. And that's why I think a lot of people are kind of missing. Engineering, I don't want to paint it as the villain or any corporate job or any 9 to 5. Like that works for a lot of people. But if it doesn't, then what I help people do is be intentional with the life that they're building, both career-wise and then also outside of their profession and their career. And so as long as we're intentional with what we want from life, then I find that we often wake up like excited for the day, right? As opposed to like, another Monday, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I totally get it. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into that 18-year-old version of you in your house. You walk up to him, you have a book in your hands. It's like a coffee table book, and you hand it over and say, "This is how your life turned out." Would that young version of you believe it?
Oh man, that's a great question. Would he believe it? I don't know. My life has taken so many zigs and zags and turns. I tell a lot of my clients we learn this, I think in math class, like maybe in junior high or something, we learn it's like a geometry thing. It's like the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line,
Uh-huh.
right? Well, I found that in life that's absolutely not true, meaning that the shortest distance between where we are and where we want to go, or who we are and who we want to become, is never a straight line. It can't be. We want it to be. We try to avoid all the pitfalls and make the best decisions we can. But I'm sure, Joe, you've had this experience in your life where, you go down one route, it doesn't work out, so you come back this way, and you're just doing different things throughout your life. And so I don't know that the 18-year-old myself would not believe it, but I think they'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done and evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
Oh, hands down, my family, my kids, and my wife. I know that's a little bit cliche to say that, but the family is the most important thing. And anybody that has kids or is married knows that it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
There's struggles, there's finances, there's relationships, there's you're putting time into those things, and they're all great and exciting, but it's also a lot of work, right? And so that's probably my biggest accomplishment, if you want to call it that, or what I'm most proud of is just the family that I have and how great people they are.
So if you walked into a room of everybody that knows you in a professional sense, whether it's engineering or coaching, and you walked
Mhm.
to a podium and you could tell them a fun story about you, maybe the first concert you went to, you know, climbing a mountain, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a crocodile, some fun story that would humanize you a little bit. What would be a story you would tell that room?
Oh man, this is a good one. I've never been asked this on a podcast. I've been on quite a few, but this is kind of out in left field, but also I
Yeah.
love that it has this human aspect. I'll tell you about the first girl I ever kissed. I told my wife this recently. We've been married 15 years. It was not her. It was another girl. Her name was Janine Baker, and it was seventh grade. And I thought it was going to be, I don't know, you grow up, you're seventh grade. What are you, 13 or however old you are in middle school? And all you have to rely on really is like what your friends tell you in the movies, right? And so I was dating this girl. We called each other on the phone that was attached to the wall back in the day. We didn't
Of
have cell
course.
phones. And we hung out after school one time and we were dating, but we hadn't kissed. And so I thought it would be a cool way to kiss her. We're hanging out in the lockers. We can't go anywhere. We're at school. It's after school. We're kind of in between like going to the bus or whatever to get home. And I thought, in the movies, the guy usually like pushes the girl up against the wall and I like kisses her. So I like pushed her into the lockers and she hits her head and she goes, ow. She literally said out loud, she says, ow. And then I'm like, well, we're this far into it. So I kiss her and it was awkward. It's teenage love and whatnot. But yeah, we're all human, man. I love the humanity that you're putting into this story. Like we're all human. Life is messy, and that's the beauty of it, right?
So I'm going to tell you mine. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I've ever talked about this. So
Let's hear it.
when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I was 4'11" in high school. I was always small. So
Okay.
the girl I was dating at the time, and we must have been in the seventh grade, she was like the perfect, like kind of rebellious, kind of slightly hoodish girl. She had the 1984 Van Halen shirt on. And in front of our junior high, we had these weird, like almost look like circular crop circles that came up and they were like circle things that you could sit on. I had to stand on top of that to make out with her and it was awesome. Like I literally was that small where I had to get up on it, but it was great. I mean, it was like
That's funny.
it worked out pretty good. But so I'm curious, everyone out there in all these different bubbles of your life has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. The obvious things that come to mind are, my relationships are a big part of my identity. So I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, a son. I'm a man of faith, so I'm a Christian. But one thing that when I think about that a little bit deeper, that I don't know if people would describe me this way or not. I think they would, but it probably wouldn't be the first thing that they said, is that I'm a very naturally curious person. I'm just always seeking to learn more. And I think curiosity is somewhat of my superpower, not to like pat myself on the back, but I think there's in coaching, at least when I coach, there's an element of I'm the teacher, I'm the master, and they're the student. But in reality, like the way I approach it is that we're both there to learn. Yes, I'm there to help, but really, like the best teachers are the best listeners.
Yeah.
And to be a good listener, you have to be curious because naturally, as humans, anytime somebody speaks, we always start thinking like, "What's my response? What am I going to say? How am I going to come off as knowledgeable or the expert?" And so I work on this. I'm not perfect, but I try to be as curious as possible, ask more questions, listen as much as possible. And inevitably, people end up answering kind of their own questions or getting clarity through that process. And so I would say to your question, I think I'm pretty curious.
So if you could get into a time machine, would you go back in time and see one event, or would you go into the future?
Mm. Ooh, I
Right?
know this is like a classic question, but let's see. Would I go back in time or would I go into the future? I don't know. I don't know when in the future I go, but I think that'd be pretty interesting. I'd either go in the future just out of curiosity's sake. Like I said, I'm pretty curious just to see like, 500 years from now,
Yeah.
what's different, what's new. But if I could pinpoint a specific moment in time in the past that was pretty influential or something, I might do that too. But I'll pick the future for sure.
And I think we're kind of in the same age range. We've seen so much change to go from
Hmm.
that like time when we were teenagers where there's a rotary dial to what we're doing now with AI. It's crazy to think,
Crazy.
right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
take that 500 years into the future because,
Yeah.
growing up with the Jetsons, there's a lot of that stuff that's happened. Thankfully, there's not flying cars because that would be disastrous. If
Be
we're this
crazy.
bad on the ground, we don't need to be going above our heads and doing that.
Amen. Yep.
It would be no good. So, if anyone has any questions, they want to hire you, they want to reach out, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place to go?
Well, what I want to offer to any of your listeners is a free resource. I put together what I call the Own Your Life Playbook, and so a lot of what I talk about it does integrate with people's careers and their professions, but it's more heavily on the life side, the personal side, the winning at home side. And so this free resource is called the Own Your Life Playbook, and they can grab that for free. They just put in their name and their email. It's at activelyhuman.com/hashtag playbook. Again, free download. I think it's super useful and helpful for them. So if anything in our conversation, Joe, sparked any interest from your listeners, please go there, activelyhuman.com/hashtag playbook, and they can grab that. But I'm also on LinkedIn. You can go to my website, activelyhuman.com, learn more. But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, Jake, what a great time. Thank you, sir. Thank you, and I will put all these links in the show notes. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful holiday season.
You too. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate
Cool.
it.
Thank you.